Here are the 13 money mistakes that I made before I retired and I was still able to retire. Here's the disclaimer. I retired from the public education system in the state of Missouri, which is one of the best education pension programs in the United States. I receive 80% a year of my top 3 years. Here's an example. If I was making $100,000 a year when I retired, then I would be making $80,000 a year. If I was making $60,000 as a teacher when I retired, I would be bringing home $48,000 a year. Let's get into my 13 money mistakes. I am going to get crucified in the comments for this video, but I want to share it because a lot of people comment that they relate to me and they thank me for my vulnerability, my transparency, and being honest. But if you are tempted to write a nasty comment to me, just don't. Think it in your head. Just don't type it in the comment section because this is going to bring it out in all of you, I am sure. My number one money mistake is the use of credit cards. When I started using credit cards, it was probably 20 to 30 years ago when I started college, 35 years ago. And credit cards were kind of a new thing. Whenever you registered for college or started filling out applications and things that go along with the college application process, you would start getting credit card applications in the mail, tons of them. And then the credit card companies would set up on college campuses, which they do now, and you would get free swag for signing up for a credit card. So of course I did that. I accrued credit card debt my entire college career. Not a lot. I don't remember the amount at that time, and I will explain how I got out of that situation after college, but credit cards are a huge mistake. You may be thinking that you're using it to earn points or you use it and you pay it off, and that's fine. I'm talking about using credit cards to live. When I started working on budgeting and tracking my expenses and watching YouTube videos and joining Facebook groups, I realized how many people are really struggling with credit card debt. And when I watch their budgeting or expense tracking process, there are a lot of credit cards in their tracking process. I also remember when I was a teacher 30 years ago, one of our staff members had a credit card from every major department store in town. Dillard's, Macy's, Victoria's Secret, JCPenney's, Kohl's, Gordman's, every place you could have one like that. They would hold up their wallet and just all their credit cards would come down. And it wasn't really frowned upon at the time, and I don't think people realized the revolving debt and interest rates and how that was going to eventually hit them. But number one, obviously, is credit cards. That was a big mistake for me. My last two that I share with you, number 12 and 13, are things that you need to do or you should do right now that I wish I had done all along, as specifically as I'm doing them currently. So stay here until 12 and 13. It'll be worth your time. Number two is not having savings accounts, specific savings accounts, or sinking funds. I always had money left over at the end of the month that I considered savings. And what I wish I would have done is if I had $500 or $1,000 left over at the end of the month, I would have actually put that in a savings account. If you think about over the years, at the end of every month, I had $500 left over. If I took that $500 out, and then at the end of the next month, I had $500 left over, and I took that out and put it in a savings account or invested, which I'll talk about that too, how much money I would have now. I always had money at the end of the month that I considered savings that wasn't really savings. So that was a mistake that I made, and not having sinking funds or accounts or savings accounts or places where there was money I was putting aside for things I knew that were coming up. I recently started sinking funds for a prom dress, car tires, taxes for next year, Christmas gifts for next year. So now I have a savings account and accounts where I'm putting money that will help me when those expenses come, not to have to pay it out of my paycheck or my pension. I'll have accounts that I can take that money out of. Number 3 of my money mistakes is not talking about money. No one wants to talk about money. It's really, really taboo. Nobody wants to tell people how much money they have or don't have, or they lie about it, but nobody's talking about money. Of course, on social media, they'll talk about they're a millionaire, a gazillionaire, they have a lot of money, but nobody's really talking about how much they make. Like I said, you can look mine up online for every public school there is. There's a salary schedule, but no one wants to admit or talk about their losses or gains or anything about money. It's just so taboo. So I wish that I would have at least talked to my parents about money, but I never really talked about it. It's almost as if it's this big secret, or you'll get in trouble if you talk about money, but nobody wants to talk about it. And I think the best thing to do is talk about it. And as I watch videos of people who are sharing their budgets, showing people how to budget, showing how much money they make, it has helped me so much. Talking about money is helpful. Mistake number 4 is not asking questions. I don't know if it's not asking any questions or not asking certain people questions. I didn't ask my dad how he made his money, where his investments were, how much money he was making, and he never shared that with me. Back in the day, talking about money was super taboo. Today, it seems like everybody talks about how much money they have, or they want you to think that they have. So there's lots of false information out there about the amount of money. My own kids put people up on pedestals because of the cars they drive, the houses they live in, the clothes they wear. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have money, but my kids don't understand that yet. You can use credit cards to get all of those things. You can live paycheck to paycheck to get all of those things. People will talk about their investments. If you ask people how they have their money invested, they love talking about that, and they love talking about their portfolios. That's a question that you could ask. Again, I wish I would have asked my parents about money. My kids were the first round of kids where there was a law or a bill put into place that you had to take a personal finance class, and I'm so thankful for that. I wish personal finance was around when I was in high school. And when now that my kids have jobs, they ask me questions about money and we talk about money. I'm really working as a parent on my tone of voice when I talk to my kids about things, so I am not sounding critical or judgmental or shoulding on them. You should do this, you should do that, because I want them to feel like they can come to me without being judged or criticized. But again, I am from a long line of people who have a critical tone of voice. It's something I've really been working on. Number 5 is my 5th mistake is I shouldn't have spent everything all the time. Like I said earlier, whenever I got paid, in my mind, I knew I had money to cover all of my expenses, and then I knew, okay, now I can go to the mall and get that purse, or now I can go get that shirt or sweater that I saw. Now I can go do this. So every payday, I would think, okay, now I have the money to go do that, and then I would go buy that thing. Think about today where it's not I have to go to the mall, it's available for you right on your phone, and you can get it at any time, or you can say, oh, I'll have the money by this day, I'll go ahead and get it because then the money will be there. No, I had the mindset of I have enough to cover all of my fixed expenses, therefore I can spend the rest on something that I want or something to do or something like that, where instead of thinking the spend everything mentality, pay my fixed expenses and then put the money in different places to know how much money was going to clothing or splurges, things like that. So spending everything was mistake number 5. Number 6, not investing. I talked about a lot of these mistakes over the course of time in my videos. I'm just hoping that you didn't like keep track of them in every video and write down every mistake I made. However, I am giving you all of these right now. But not investing. I have talked before about I don't have a 401k, I don't have a financial planner, I don't have a portfolio, I don't have any of those things. And I would encourage young teachers or young people, if they want to retire. Another issue out there right now is some people know they're never going to retire, they don't want to retire, or retirement is something for Gen Xers. And people have to decide if that's something they're going to do and they want to use their money for that. Retirement, I feel like, is just this term or this hypothetical thing that no one really understands. And that's why I've shared out on this channel. But I talked a little bit about our school providing time and resources to sit down with people who were offering 401ks or different insurance plans, things like that. And I didn't understand it at the time. I had 15 minutes to talk about it, never asked questions about it. So I don't have investments. The only thing that I have for retirement is the pension that I'm getting. And it's a nice pension, but imagine what I could have if I would have invested in those things that were offered to me or learned about those things. Number 7, I kind of want to plead the fifth on this one, but I do have to mention it. And a mistake that I made, or that was made, was a second mortgage on the house. And I don't remember when this was done. This wasn't something that I did, but I think there were 2 times that there was a second mortgage taken out on the house for certain things. I'm trying to say these things without throwing my ex-husband under the bus, but there were those mortgages. And I don't know if it's the same as it is now, where you can use the equity in your home for a loan. I think it was different back then. I think it was in addition to, you borrowed against. Anyway, I didn't do it. I don't remember it. I just know that when I got divorced, there were second mortgage on the house that had to be consolidated into refinancing so that I could have the house whenever you do the titling and all that stuff in a divorce. So then I got the house, but there was a second mortgage on that. I don't recommend taking out a second mortgage on the house. I don't know why, other than I absorbed that. I've never done that. Number 8 is consumer credit counseling. I don't know what that's called right now, but back in the day when I had racked up a ton of credit card debt in college, there were these offices in these strip malls, consumer credit counseling, and you could go and they would consolidate all of your debt into one payment. I think they did the negotiations with the credit card companies. They either got the payoff amount, or they reduced the interest if you couldn't pay it off, but then you sent one check to consumer credit counseling. And the reason that this wasn't a good idea was this stayed on my credit, and I didn't know that at the time. At the time, that was one of the only ways to get rid of credit or to take care of something. And I remember when we purchased this house, that flagged on the credit report that I had done a consumer credit counseling plan, and that was a negative points or a bad look on your credit report. So that was a mistake. Consumer credit counseling, if you know what that's called now, put it in the comments. I don't know what that's called, or if there's even that service still available, but I did that and it was a bad idea. My 9th money mistake is getting divorced. You may have to get divorced, or it's not your choice to get divorced, but I have been told that it's financially devastating to go through a divorce. I was a lucky one. I had a very small attorney fee. A friend of a friend knew an attorney that would do my portion of the divorce, so I didn't have thousands of dollars. It was an uncontested divorce. It was just a matter of the paperwork. I got the house in the divorce free and clear. I didn't have to sell the house and divide up equity, or I didn't have to move. My goal for my kids and for the whole process was that their lives weren't disrupted and we didn't have to sell the house and move or change anything, that the only thing that was changing in their lives were the people that were in their lives. But a divorce can be financially devastating for attorney fees, assets, if it's ugly, separating things. It just depends on the people in the situation. For me, I tried to live a lifestyle of a dual income on a single income. And I was able to do that through taking on additional responsibilities at work that provided a stipend. I sold digital products online. I did national speaking gigs as a principal where I traveled around and I got paid for some of those to speak at different conferences. And I just took on different ways to make money over the course of time so my kids didn't have to see a change in lifestyle. Looking back, I think it's okay for kids to see that. My choice was to just keep everything exactly the same. I think I lived in denial, and I probably lived in denial for a long time about what was going on. I just didn't want things to change for them. One disclaimer, and I have mentioned this in other videos, is I do get $300 a month in child support, whether that matters in this video or not, but I thought I would share that. My 10th money mistake was not learning everything I needed to know about my pension. I still don't know what the lump sum transaction is for your pension. If you work so many years in Missouri, you have the option to get a lump sum. I don't know what that is. I also believed that the number that was on my retirement statement was the number that was going to be deposited into my bank account. I did have state taxes taken out, but there's also federal taxes, making sure you know exactly what that check is going to be. It was exactly what it said before all of the other things were taken out of it. So learning everything you can learn about your pension is a good practice before you decide to retire. Number 11 is not setting financial goals. The only financial goal that I set was how could I get to the highest salary with the position and education that I had? What job paid the most in what I was experienced or I was certified to do? That was my only goal, is get to the highest salary. I didn't have investment goals. I didn't have savings goals. I didn't have retirement goals. All I had was how can I make the most money doing what I'm doing now? If I would have had savings goals or just known more about money, then I would be so much better off now that I'm retired. Before my last 2 money mistakes, don't forget to look in the description and download the digital notebook that I've created for you. It's free. I am working on a retirement journal that has question prompts and a little bit of planner and notes pages in it for you to work through if you are thinking about retirement or you're retired or wondering what it's like to be retired. It's going to be a really good beyond the money part of retirement. It's going to ask you the questions about what life is really like. So go down to the description and you can download that free notebook. It's also a PDF that you can have on your computer, but it's meant to be an interactive digital planner notebook that you work like on an iPad or any kind of a tablet. I will also link my complete principal planner. I did create an actual planner years ago and I still love it, and I love the colors, and I just love how it looks. And if you want that, I'll link that in the description too. But it was specifically created for principals. You could delete the principal portion of it and use it as a planner for yourself. However, I just want you to see it and you can take a look at that. My last 2 are big ones. Number 12 is not budgeting or having a budget. I didn't create a budget. I didn't have a budget. I didn't look at sample budgets. I had nothing. All I knew were my fixed expenses and what my paycheck was going to be. And when I talk about fixed expenses, I'm talking about things that I get a bill for that is automatically withdrawn from my account. Fixed expenses would be my mortgage, my car payment, insurance, subscriptions, just all the different things that you get billed for. Where if I would have budgeted, then I could have created categories for all the other things: eating out, clothes, house, car maintenance, dental work. If I would have budgeted, I would have budgeted for those things, which is what I'm doing now. I just didn't do it before I retired. I highly recommend that you create a budget. Whether you follow it or not, it's up to you, but you just need to create one to hypothetically look at each month so you know where your money is going. But that was number 12. And my last one, number 13, is tracking your money and your expenses. Where is it all going? After 2 years, I think I know where all my money is. There were things that were attached to different services that I couldn't figure out where they were coming from. I knew I had access to Hulu and Disney Plus and Netflix and all the different things. I just didn't know where it was coming from. And I learned that whenever I signed up for Verizon, you get free subscriptions to things that after 6 months you get billed for, and I didn't realize that that's where that was. So I couldn't find where a lot of these things were coming from. So it almost took 2 years to figure that out. So Verizon had some things attached. You also have subscriptions that come out from Apple, or you get an Apple bill. There were things coming out of PayPal. I had different credit cards attached to things that I didn't realize I had them attached to. Annual fees were coming out on credit cards that I had paid off. It took me 2 years to find everything and realize there were expenses in my bank account that I had no idea what the company was. I could call the bank and they could tell me who it was, and maybe I could Google the contact information. They just couldn't cancel those accounts. I had to reach out to cancel a lot of those accounts. I also needed to keep track of giving. Over the last month, there have been 2 families in need that I have given $100 to that's not in my budget, and I would need to put a category in my budget for that. I probably give to people in need every month. I just don't think about it, I just do it. And in my mind, I just say, okay, well then I'm not gonna get this, or I'm not gonna do this because this family needs this money. So those are my 13 money mistakes. I'm excited, anxious, uneasy about the comments that are gonna be listed. Again, if you have something negative to say, just think it, don't say it. Don't be a keyboard warrior and type something terrible in there. I delete comments all the time for people who say hurtful things, so please just don't do that. I have really thick skin. I used to be a principal. I've actually been subbing as a principal lately and have had to have thick skin through that as well. But just try to restrain yourself, or try to show restraint in typing nasty comments. I'll see you in my next video.